more than 5 billion people around the world continue to struggle with money and financial illiteracy.
The financial industry is not set up for you to be educated and know what's going on. The less you know, the more they make.
How bad is financial illiteracy?
It's not taught in schools, so people don't know this naturally.
Oh, you're right.
So you grow up not knowing anything about it, you make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we're hoping to educate them and teach them how money really works so they can learn the cause and effect of all this.
And it doesn't have to be generational. Break that cycle.
We're on a crusade to eradicate financial literacy through learning how money really works. Everybody should have an opportunity to become educated.
How money works.
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 Start taking responsibility by learning how money works.
You have to know how money works.
How money works. Stop being a sucker.
Money means possibility. It means opportunity. It means freedom, things you've always wanted to do, dreams that you have. Money makes it possible.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is good to see you all here on today. This evening, we had a session earlier this afternoon during the lunchtime, and I tell you, we got into some of the things. And so what we're going to do today, this evening, we're going to talk about one of the concepts about money. It's called the Rule of 72. And so we'll get right into it. If you've heard of it before, great. If you have not, do not feel bad. Wasn't until a few years ago that I had even heard of it. I've heard of a lot of rules, but the Rule of 72 was not one of them. And so I was like, okay, what's that about? I do love numbers. Being a financial educator, being a tax professional, a business advisor, I kind of got a thing for numbers, but I was like, I never heard of the Rule of 72. So do not beat yourself up about it. It is a little known mental math shortcut. It's what the wealthy people have used for years. So for some of us, we're like, just finding out about it. And like I said earlier today, now is always the best time to start. So don't ever feel like, because I had it, like I should have knew this, I should have done that, I could have done this, I would have done that. Don't worry, we can always start now. So it's absolutely essential that everyone learns about the Rule of 72. Don't worry, it's not complicated. So you simply take the interest rate, and you see there's a formula here on the screen. So you just simply take the interest rate of whatever it is that you're doing. So like if you go to the bank, or you take your car statement, or the money that you put in the bank, and you know how you go and they say, hey, our interest rates are 0.9%. Put your money in here, put it over here. So what does that really mean? And so you simply divide any interest rate into the number of 72, and it tells you how long it will take for your money to double. It works for you if you save money, but it also works against you if you borrow money. The same rule. If you save money, it's working for you. If you borrow money, it's working against you. And what I mean by borrow, if you get a car note, you take out a loan. Right? At 1%, so if the interest rate is 1% and you put the money into a savings account, or you put it into some type of bank product, and you put the money in, and they tell you that your interest rate on the rate of return is going to be 1%. You take and divide that, it's going to take your money 72 years before it turns into $2. You put $1 in, take 72 years for it to be $2. That's a very long time. So would anyone knowingly choose to do that? Would you knowingly put your money somewhere knowing that it's going to take this long for your money to double? So I want you to keep that question in mind. We're going to come back to that in just a little bit. But I wanted to make sure that everybody get a chance to write this rule down if you're in a position to where you can write it. And just a little disclaimer, if you're watching the replay, if you have a question, You can put it in the comment section of whatever platform you're watching it on, or you can simply send a text message to 985-326-9297, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So, all right, we'll get into this. So if it was 3%, if the interest rate is 3%, you put your money in, it will take your money to double every 24 years. Okay, so that's a little bit better than 72 years. But let's keep going. If we do 6%, if the interest rate at this facility is 6% on the rate of return, it will take it 12 years for your money to double. That's even better. 9%, 8 years. And what if you could get a 12%? Then your money would double every 6 years. That's more like it. If you think about how old you are now and you say, can I wait 72 years for my money to double? You do the math. So, that's it. That's really the whole rule, is taking the interest rate, whatever the interest rate that the bank promises you. Hey, bring your money here, put it in this account, and we're going to give you 3% return, or we're going to give you a 1% interest rate return. And you can look at that if you have a savings account already. Just log into your online banking, and there's going to be a little box on the side, and it's going to tell you how much your interest rate is. They have to disclose that. Or if you're looking for a bank to put your money in for a savings account, you can ask them, hey, what is the rate of return? And if they tell you, oh, it's 0.9%, all you have to do, take the rule of 72 and divide it by the interest rate that they give you. And that's going to tell you how long it's going to take your money to double. All right. And we'll talk a little bit later about how it works in reverse. All right. Now, in the book, if you don't have a book yet and you registered and you put your mailing address in, we will be mailing you out a book. So just hang tight. But if not, if you already have the book, there's a young lady in the book named Zoe, and this is this is an excerpt out of the book. So if you already have it, you can actually go back and read this once we're done with the class tonight. But if you don't have a book, don't worry, we're going to get it mailed out to you. And if you're watching the replay and you would like a book, you're going to text the word book, B-O-O-K, to 985-326-9297. All right, so in the book, we give an example of the young adult named Zoe, who received an inheritance. How nice. She received an inheritance, and let me do this. Put this on here so make sure everybody can see me. All right, and so she gets an inheritance of $10,000. So we're going to use Zoe for the next few minutes for what we're going to discover tonight, and you could just, move the numbers around to meet your situation. But for this example, she received $10,000, and she saved that money from that with a 6% rate of return. And, if she was to save it from the time, that she received it to the time she retired with a 6% rate of return, she would end up with $160,000. But what if she could double her rate of return to 12%? Take a guess how much money she would end up with. Many people think the answer would be 320, which is double the interest, double the money. And that would be fabulous. But how much would she actually end up with? All right, so let's do the math. Math was not my favorite subject in school. So when people say, oh, let's just do the math, I cringe. But I promise, when it comes to your money, you might want to take a little interest in some math. I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention. That makes it more enticing to do it. All right, so with a 12% rate of return, she will get 8 doubles instead of 4. So believe it or not, her money will be worth $2.5 million. Is twice the rate of return. But that's 16 times the money. The power of compound interest And that's why you have to know the rule of 72. That's why we're here today. So we're gonna go over that again. And earlier today, we talked about the power of compound interest. So I wanna make sure everybody get a chance to kind of look at this chart. All right. So remember the question that I asked you earlier when we first started about the 1%? Who would choose to get 72, take 72 years for their money to double? Because people don't know how money works, there's almost 10 trillion, that's trillion with a T, sitting in passbook savings account with an average rate of return of 0.09%. That's not even 1%. So if, like I said, if you take your bank statements or your log into your online banking and pull up your savings account and look at the rate of return, the average, not all, but the average rate of return is 0.09%. That's just a fraction of 1%. When CNBC did their review of our book, this is one of the things they pointed out to be almost unbelievable. And so when you receive your book, there should be a printed copy of this article in it. If not, please reach out and let me know, and I'll make sure I email it over to you. I'll print it and get it to you as well. All right, so if you divide the 0.09% into 72, which is the formula, you're looking at 800 years for the account to double. And that'll be the year of 2823. And as our friend Clark says, that your great, 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 great grandchild would enjoy that. And I don't know about you guys, but that's a very long time. And I don't want to wait that long to have my money double. If I'm going to put my money into your institution for you to use, and you're going to pay me interest, 0.09% is not it. And just so we're clear, that's the same place that give you the 0.09%, they can charge you 21% or more for a credit card. So that means their money is doubling every 3 years. Now you see, so that's why we need to learn more about how money works today, not tomorrow. So that same bank that's giving you 0.09%, if you borrow money from them or get a car loan or things of that nature, they are charging you 21%. They can charge you 21%. So of course, this is a little fun fact. When you go into the bank and they give you a lollipop for your trouble for waiting in the line, or just a common courtesy, they'll give you, they have the little bowl with the candy in it. And most of the time, the candy that they have chosen is called Dum Dum. And so next time you walk in the bank and you grab one, you're gonna be like, okay, I get it. So they're trying to tell you, you just don't know the code, but we know it now. Right? So to save your money in an account that doubles every 800 years, while the bank is spending your money, it's doubling for them every 3 years. So one of the things that we've covered earlier and just now was compound interest, time value of money, and we talked about the rule of 72. Now we're going to get into the 7 money milestones. And if you're just tuning in, you can go back and watch the previous videos as well, or request them, or request a one-on-one overview. So now that we've covered some of the most important financial concepts that should be taught in school, but it's not taught in high school, it's time to put the work in ourselves. So you see, knowledge without action, it doesn't amount to much. You just know now, but we gotta put it into action. So you have to put these concepts into work in your life. All right, so these are the 7 areas of personal finance that we all need to put into action. All right. Step number 1, or milestone number 1, as we call it, is financial education. That's why we're here today, to learn more about money, to learn more about how it works. The first step is to become a lifelong learner with financial education, since it's information that's not taught in school. So how do we do that? So the first way is by attending, sessions like this, workshops like this, carving out some time. The second way is to read the book, share it with your family, share it with friends, and take your knowledge further. There's a web address, which I'm giving this presentation from today. It's on a public website. And so you can go right here onto the website, the same website where you registered, and you can click how money works, and you can read all of it. It's not behind a firewall. There's nothing to hide. This is not a secret, and it's just public information. We just have to take the time to read over it. We have over a dozen presentations like this one. I have weekly emails that I send out in financial concepts so that you can have this information at your disposal and so that you can learn. The second step of financial education is to work with a financial professional. One reason this is such a crucial step is because there are entirely new products today that most people may not never have heard of, and things are changing, things grow. And so you want to work with someone that's keeping up with the industry. Along with these new products and their benefits come new language, certain terms, like some of you may not have heard of the rule of 72 before tonight. And so you need someone that speaks the language that can help you cut through all the red tape, all the noise, all the and somebody that can just talk to you in plain English. And so that's what we want to work with you, have the opportunity to work with you to do that. And to ensure that you reach your goals, to help you to do that, and to also make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. So as we build your financial strategy, it's like building a house. We have to build on a solid foundation. Sometimes that may mean starting over. It may mean starting from where you are and going to the next level. But it's protecting your family and your finances from unexpected things, because life does happen. Circumstances do change, situations do come up. So you need a strategy that's self-complete. Even if you aren't around to complete it, you want to protect what you have. And in some cases, that starts with life insurance. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to give you some education on what are those things. So you want to protect what you're building. You're building wealth, but you don't want something to come along and wipe it all out. Only 59% of Americans have life insurance, and about half of those are underinsured, which means they have something, but if we sat down and we added up all of your expenses, all of your obligations, you would find that it's not enough. So when it comes to life insurance, there are two major questions we get asked all the time. The first one is, how much insurance do I need? That's a question that a lot of people want to know. The calculation is different for everyone based on your situation. However, the general rule of thumb is to start approximately with 10 times your annual income. So whatever you're bringing in once a year, you want to multiply that by 10. So if you were bringing in $1,000 a year, you multiply that by 10, that means you need $10,000 worth of insurance. Well, so just do the math that way. Find out what it is that your annual income is, and then you want to multiply that by 10. And that'll tell you how much you should have at least. All right, so from there, we adjust your life insurance need based up or down based on your specific circumstances. We take into account factors like age, do you have a mortgage, do you rent, what is your health, and probably one of the most important factors is we want to know, do you have children? are dependent, and what are their ages and how many. If you have a bunch of kids, you got to multiply that number by more than 10%, by more than 10 times your income. If you have no children, we could use a less number, or no dependents, or if you have dependents. The second question is, what type do I need? What type of insurance? There are so many options. So what are my choices, or what is it that I need? So they're basic. So we're gonna start with the basic ones, the two most common used, and that's term and permanent. So we're gonna start with those. Part of the industry some of it only sells term, some of it, and they'll say, "Oh, you're crazy if you buy permanent." Then the other says, "Get permanent," and if you buy term, you're crazy. So it's like, okay, why are they arguing about it? So which one is right? Neither. Neither one of them are right. It depends on your needs and your circumstance. Some may need term, some may need permanent, some may need both. So no one person can say just get term, and no one else can say just get permanent, because everybody's situation is different. So your unique situation has to be looked at. When you were young, you only worked for a few years, and you have yet, it's like when you're young, you only work for a few years and you have yet to accumulate a lot of wealth in most cases. If you do, however, have a lot of responsibilities, you may have a spouse, you may have young kids, you may have a mortgage, there's a sweet spot for term. It provides you a lot of coverage for not a lot of dollars. Okay, so there's a place for it. A term policy is just that. It gives you coverage for a specific amount of time. Usually it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. If you should transition during that term, your family get a large tax-free death benefit. However, statistically, you're unlikely to die during that term. And therefore, your policy expires without paying anything to your family or returning the money to you. This is why some people will say not to buy it. But it's exactly why term can be a good fit for some families. Since insurance companies don't charge very much for term, it's a great way to get a lot of coverage for a little bit of out-of-pocket money. And as you can see here, there's the chart there. But as you get older, your responsibilities should decrease, your mortgage decrease, your kids have left the house, hopefully. That's what we be praying, like, Lord, bless them, they get a chance to leave the nest, and you have fewer years of earning potential to protect. And all of your responsibilities decrease, but your wealth is starting to increase. This is where permanent insurance comes into play. So if you do it right, permanent insurance can help you increase your wealth. Permanent insurance is just that, it's permanent. That means you get to keep it for life, because the insurance company knows that they will one day have to pay a death benefit. A permanent insurance requires a larger out-of-pocket amount. But along with this higher premium comes additional benefits you can leverage to grow your wealth. So as we discussed, the newest types of permanent insurance allows you to grow money on a tax-free and risk-free basis, which can help you provide a tax-free retirement income, a safe way to grow money. So permanent gives you more than just a death benefit. You can also use permanent while you're living. It's why it's called life insurance. You can use it for life, versus the term, it covers for a while and it expires. But the permanent, so there are different scenarios that you would use term, different scenarios you would use permanent, and in some cases, in a lot of cases, you would use both. So that's why I say it depends on your situation. So another one of the benefits with having a permanent policy is called long-term care. What do you think of when you hear the term long-term care? Most people think of an elderly person in a nursing home. However, Hector at the top here, as you can see on the screen, informs us that 37% of people who receive long-term care are under the age of 65. And it because of an illness or an accident, some sort of situation that caused them to need long-term care prior to, just being an elderly person in a nursing home. How many people know someone that has been affected by a long-term care situation? The fact is 70% of us will need long-term care. And if we need it, it's so expensive. The average cost of nursing home stay is about 2.5 years. Most people stay in a nursing home. So what you're looking at right now is a total out-of-pocket expense of about $250,000. Now, most care takes place at home, which can be more affordable, but there's a trade-off. If you're healthy enough to stay at home, it lasts longer. So either way you cut it, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of about $200,000 or $250,000 in out-of-pocket expense. That is not covered by health insurance or Medicare. So it's up to you to pay for this. So how do we protect ourselves from this potential threat? A 70% likelihood of needing to come out of pocket for $250,000. So one option, the old school way, is to buy a traditional standalone long-term care policy. These policies protect you from long-term care threats, but come with some major drawbacks. We've already touched on one. If there's a 70% chance that you'll need it, there's a 30% chance that you won't. So you run a 30% chance of wasting tens of thousands of dollars on something that you may never need, and your family won't benefit from it. So, that's thousands of dollars you could have used in life, or something you could have left for your children. So option 2 is another way, and it's called living benefits of new permanent life insurance policies. For a few extra dollars, whatever policy that you already have in place, you can potentially add long-term care protection to it as a rider, which means you have this policy in place and you add something onto it. I tell people it's just like when you order a meal and you got to pay $5 for the meal. And they say, well, if you get a larger size drink, you can add $1. So this is what I mean when I say rider. You're already paying for the policy and you add on another benefit for an additional cost. This way, if you ever need long-term care, your life insurance policy will pay for it. And if you're blessed, the 30% of Americans that will never need long-term care, so now you haven't wasted tens and thousands of dollars on a policy you don't get to use, or something your family will never receive. So this kind of knowledge is what I mean by cutting through the noise and finding, what works for you. So it's very important to sit down with a financial planner and say, okay, this is my life situation. These are the things I'm thinking of. These are the things I want to protect. And then put something in place for you, tailor-made, versus somebody saying, get term, you get permanent, you get long-term care. Well, we need to find out what it is that you need and how does that fit into your situation, because you have options. All right. And so the last item that we're going to talk about in this session, before we get into Q&A, is emergency fund. If you're currently living paycheck to paycheck, like a lot of Americans are today, it's just a lot going on. Your emergency fund could be the insulation that separates you from a financial disaster if something should happen. And we all know something could happen. Something has happened with getting over the thrust of COVID, but there are other life situations as well. So the general rule of thumb, how much should you have in an emergency fund? Is it 3 to 6 months of income? So let's check it out. These are just some samples that I have here on the screen. Let me go back. I kind of want to go through that a little bit. So if your annual income is $30,000, 3 months of income would be $7,500. 6 months would be $15,000. If your annual income is $100,000 a year, a 3 month worth of emergency fund would be $2,500. 6 months would be $50,000. So it would take you some time to save it, but it is very, very important to have an emergency fund set aside. There are 2 rules for an emergency fund. Your emergency fund is only for an unexpected emergency. That's it. It's not for getaways. It's not for buy one, get one free sale. It's not for Christmas gifts. It's not for Christmas gifts. So rule number 2, when you have an inevitable emergency that you just cannot avoid, use your emergency fund. Sometimes people save up the emergency fund and it comes to a really nice amount. Then they have a real emergency. They don't want to use the emergency fund. And then they use money from somewhere else that causes problems down the line when they simply could have just used the emergency fund. That is what it's for. Use it. You know, if the air conditioner goes out, they put it on a credit card versus using the emergency fund. If you've saved up in the emergency fund and the AC goes out or you need a set of tires, they put it on a credit card so that they can get Sky Miles versus taking the money out of the emergency fund and taking care of the emergency. So if you don't have an emergency, fund or you don't properly use it, it can force you to go into debt. So you set the emergency fund up so that you don't go into debt. All right. And so we're going to pause here. In our next session, we're going to get into debt management. And that session will be on November 28th at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what I want to do for those of you that are on Zoom live with me at this present moment, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop recording so that you all can freely ask your questions. Those of you that are watching live on YouTube or watching the replay, you can simply email your questions in, or you can text your question, or you can put it in the comment section of the platform that you're watching it on, and I will get back to you, me or someone from the office. We will get back with you as soon as possible. And so I appreciate you all watching these mini-series. And those of you that are on Zoom, just hang on a second. I'm going to give some information out to our viewers. If you would like a copy of the book, you can text the word book, B-O-O-K, to 985-326-9297. If you would like to schedule an appointment, or if you would like more information on the next class, you want to text the word money to that same number, 985-326-9297. And our website is here on the screen. I believe it is, maybe it's not. Okay, you're going to go to martinbusinesssolutions.com, and there you can make appointments to schedule your own one-on-one financial assessment that is at no cost. We do not charge for that. You can go ahead and get your financial planning on the way. Just simply schedule that and then be off to the races. So I'm going to stop the recording, and we here on Zoom will get into our Q&A sessions, and I look forward to seeing everyone else back here next week. Let me get the recording stopped. All right.